I will start now with a short introduction. The webinar is organized by the partnership New Power in Youth, a strategic partnership between the National Agency for the Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps and Salto Resource Centers, with the aim to foster youth participation in democratic life. This webinar is an opportunity to exchange experiences, explore innovative approaches, and gain inspiration on how to engage young people in decision making. Our discussion will build upon the outcome of a participatory research that has been conducted in 2024 and on other support material on this topic. And at the same time, we will also introduce two case studies that will help you to understand how youth participation in decision-making has been implemented in real life. And at the end, we will conclude with a group work. We have tried to structure a webinar in a way that it is interactive, and you will have the possibility to ask for questions to the speaker, to discuss with the other participants in breakout rooms. So I really hope that you will find the webinar engaging. But before I introduce you to the schedule of the webinar, I would like now to give the floor to Brigitta, who will tell you more about the why and how we arrived at the organization of this webinar. Brigitta, the floor is yours.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm super happy to see such different people in the audience, some names that I know, some names that I don't know. I'm happy to see you here, and it already means that you're interested in a topic, which is a huge step. And let's figure out how we can do it better in the future, how we can involve young people in decision making. But why are we even talking about this? From the very basic perspective, it's the right of young people to participate in decision-making that affects them. And as national agencies and SALTOs and other institutions, we're working with young people. It's their right to be there whenever it comes to events, projects, activities, bigger decisions that are being made about them, their life, and any other issues that they might be facing. It's also, as we see in research and as we see in our daily lives as well, it's increasing the quality and relevance of the work we do. It can be, our activities can be more interesting, more fun, more valuable to everyone involved. And we do believe that it can also spark some further effects. So it might happen that young people trust the institutions more. It might be that we change our own stereotypes about young people. And there's so many other reasons why we would like to do it. But I just also wanted to include that it can also just be fun and meaningful and fruitful to cooperate with different people whenever it comes to different activities that we do. And when it comes to more strategic planning, we see that in youth participation strategy, it's one of the aims. And at the moment, it's not being implemented to the extent that we would be happy to. And of course, we know that national agencies and other institutions are facing different challenges and different priorities, but this can be helpful in anything that you do. And how did we get here, and what is already some of the existing support there? We have mapping done about the various involvement mechanisms that you can check out. It's a few years old now, but there's still some inspiration that you can find there. There's also very practical inspiration stories that you can find. Today, we'll hear more about in-depth participatory research that we have done, and you will be the first lucky ones to see it, also written. We also have some inspiration stories that you can find from Participation Forum, how different types of organizations are trying to work together with their target groups. We have articles on benefits of involvement where I have to say thank you to the national agencies who expressed that it's necessary. So we're always trying to adjust our work, and this came out of the need from the national agencies. Last year, we also had a meetup of young people who were trying to affect the way how the partnership is built and also how the research is being done. And this year, we're going to continue that. So hope to see some of the young people who you're working with also there. And this is how we got to this webinar, where we want to share the stories we already have and kind of look into the future and see what else is out there, what else can we do. After this, you will also today have an opportunity to affect this learning material. So what national agencies and other organizations have been asking is, okay, we know that we want to do it. We are convinced. We know that there's different ways. Can you help us with step-by-step guidelines? And even though the situations and contexts are very different, we'll try to offer that as well. And we will get some insights and ideas from you. And during this year, from Salto Participation Information, we will also collect and gather beautiful practice stories from national agencies that we will continue to encourage you to read and engage with. So there's a lot done, a lot still to be done in a way to support you, but I'm grateful to everyone who has been in some parts of the ways with us on this journey and who are here today as well. Thank you for that.
Okay, now let's go through the schedule. Brigida, can you share the screen? Thank you. Okay, this is the schedule of the webinar. After the introduction, we'll start with the presentation of the research. The presentation will be done by Artur Poksans. He's assistant professor and researcher at the Faculty of Economics and Social Science of the University of Latvia. And then we will have 10 minutes for Q&A. So please feel free to ask for questions about the research, because it is a very important part of this webinar. I mean, it put the ground for the further discussions. And then we will start with two experience stories. The first one will be related to a consultative meeting with young people with no experience in the program, and will be presented by Karin Öövel, participation officer at the Estonian National Agency. And then the second experience story will be related to the work of the Youth Advisory Board of the German National Agency. It will be done by Wendla Schaper, a student of Political and Sustainability Science and member of the German Youth Advisory Council. The case study are really important because it represents two different kind of mechanism. One, it is more oriented through the young people that have never been involved in programs, while the other represent a more structured approach, but they are both really interesting to show you how decision mechanism can be implemented in real life. Then we have foreseen 10 minutes for the Q&A, and we will prepare two breakout rooms. So you will be free to choose with one you want to join. Also, so you can choose the one that you prefer and deepen your knowledge, making a question or sharing experience with the speaker. And then in the last part of the webinar, we had organized a group work to discuss involvement mechanism and to try to have from you some suggestion about what you would like to see included within the learning material, because we are preparing some learning material, but we would like to be sure that the material include all the topics that you consider interesting. Now, before starting, I would like to do a couple of quick polls just to have a better understanding of the audience. So I would like to ask you to take your mobile phone, scan the QR code, and tell us what type of organization you represent. Brigida will share also the screen on the chat if you prefer, but I mean, I think it's easier if you simply scan the QR code. Okay, let's see. Results are coming. Okay, for the time being, everybody from National Agency. Okay. Okay, very good. I think that most of you came from national agency, but there is someone also for other institution. This is good, so you can share also different point of view, and that's okay. I think we now can move to the second poll. I would like to ask in one word, what does meaningful youth involvement in decision making mean to you? I mean, just describe in a word what is for you the youth involvement decision making. If there is a word that can describe it. Listening, dialogue, very good. Inclusion, engagement, activism. Power, okay. Co-creation, power engagement, okay. Okay, it's very interesting because it represents all different aspects of I mean, the same goal, so to involve the people, young people in decision making. It's interesting that you can put a lot of attention on engagement, empowerment, power, co-creation. Okay. A lot of different inputs. Very good. Okay, okay. Thank you very much. I think that now we can go to the content part, let's say, of the webinar and start with the presentation by Arthur that will present the main findings of the research. And then we will continue our discussion on the basis of the outcomes. Arthur, the floor is yours.
Hello, I hope everyone can hear me. If not, please let me know, and I hope I will hear you. I heard Matteo, so everything should be fine. Yeah, thank you. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for this opportunity to tell about the research that we did together with some of the young people. And yeah, I'll just start sharing my screen so you see what I am talking about. Yeah, so the idea, many of you know about this research. A number of you have taken part in this research in one way or another. So I'm sure you have some idea of what it is or some expectations what it should be. But what it was meant to do was to look at the cases where things work. We often spend so much time about talking about why things don't work. It's hard to get young people to participate. It's difficult. There are different obstacles. We just cannot make it this year, etc., and so forth. So this research was approaching this issue from the other end, and it was asking, well, but what about those cases where it does work? What about cases where we can see that some kind of youth involvement in the work of national agencies is working? And so the aim of the research, just to remind, is was to explore the importance of meaningful youth involvement in decision making in the work of agencies and Salto, and to identify lessons learned based on the cases of these four institutions that could be used for awareness, knowledge building, and inspiration. And I believe we identified these, especially talking about these kind of things that could be inspirational. Some of them will be also discussed in detail today later, as I noticed from the program, which I'm very happy about. And there's quite the variety of these things, of these different approaches that one can take. So it's there's something for everyone. If you're an agency already very well versed in involving young people, then there's going to be something for you. And if you're somebody who's just starting out and thinking of, where to start from, we would like to do something small scale. Great, there's also an example for that. So also wait for the research when it comes out in its finished form. That's where you will be able to learn about all this in a bit more detail. But for now, I'll just give a brief overview. So the cases that we looked at were several. So the first one was a youth advisory board from Germany. Then we looked at Latvia, we looked at Salto PI, and we looked at cases from Estonia that we're going to discuss today. I'm not going to go into details about them. Just that those are the ones that we discussed. Those are the ones that we found interesting, that agreed to tell us about what they did. So again, this I think is an important message, because there might be also other places that have things going on for them, but that do not necessarily wish to discuss what they're doing or do not feel confident about it. So if you're looking for somebody who would like to share about their experience, go to these people. They should be happy to tell. How did we do it? This part, I think, is very self-explanatory. Of course, there was some interviews with members from these respective organizations about these topics that you see on the screen. There's nothing very interesting here. I just generally trying to figure out how did they do what they do and how is it working out for them. We started at the beginning of year and then did another round of interview towards the end of the year to see if there was some development, some reflections over a period of time. And these were done primarily by me. The interesting part, however, was the work that was done by the young people. As I mentioned, this research was done in a participatory manner, meaning that we were not only trying to do research in the sense that I go out and research something, but we talk about youth involvement, but we tried to involve young people also ourselves. So young people were were interviewing other young people about their experience in these programs. And so we had 4 young people participating as co-researchers in different roles for different periods of time. And we had our workshops and discussions about how to better do it, how to create interview guidelines, etc. So there's both the added benefit of their perspective as well as something for them to learn from how to do interviewing and such. Now, the young people I got to work with and had the pleasure to work with were all incredibly knowledgeable. So there wasn't that much work for me to do to tell them, but it was still, I think, quite good to have these kinds of workshops to kind of also develop this working environment. And reflecting now on this youth involvement in this research, I would say that the issues we encountered were similar to the ones reported by participating organizations, such as young people. If you found, as most of you know, if you found a young person who is willing to participate in whatever it is you're doing, they probably agreed to 5 other things as well. And that then creates this challenge of trying to balance all of this. And that then is very much the responsibility of the facilitator of the organization or of the activity, as in my case, of trying to figure out how to balance all that. So, for example, in our research, that meant that from the beginning, I was aware that some people will be participating for some activities, but not for all. And that always needed to be taken into account. At the same time, it was really worthwhile that from the beginning, we perceived young people as partners in this process. We listened to what they had to say, and we tried to incorporate their ideas as much as possible. And even though it does take more resources to go about things in this manner, it certainly is worthwhile and allows us to get much better data than we would without it. And of course, young people as co-researchers are an incredible resource in the sense that the level of depth they can get out of the research participants, meaning other young people, is something that myself, as at the best youth adjacent, I could never hope for. So what did we find? What were the key things that I would like to discuss from our research results? So the first thing certainly was that if we're looking at these cases where this involvement, sorry, not participation, involvement works, I would say that these things usually were not, clearly defined structure or well-designed systems. Rather, it was about care, about flexibility, about inclusivity. As young people are, as I mentioned already, the busyness of young people, and as you're all also well aware of the stress that the young people often are under due to all the other things they feel they require to do in contemporary times, there is this kind of great reluctance to take upon yet another task, become part of yet another task force, or yet another be messenger for yet another involvement, when they already are doing so much. And so what comes out of research, what we see from the interviews, is that in cases where this works, is those cases where the people working with the young people are able to approach the process with care and with trying to be as inclusive as possible. So this means both being sensitive towards young people's time, and sometimes that means trying to figure out how to do that at the expense of your own benefits or work schedule, as several of people in interviews described how they end up working in the holidays, because also for young people only the holidays are available to engage with any kind of questions. So when we're discussing this, it's important to keep these things in mind. And again, these are not, I don't believe these to be necessarily revolutionary things that I'm mentioning, but this is another confirmation that the process needs to be always considered rather from this question of soft skills, from this question of inclusivity and support, rather than from this idea of trying to convince young people that this is going to be a great opportunity and they should appreciate it and they need to come here because it's going to look good on their CV. Rather, what we see is that they're going to participate if they feel that this is a place where I'm supported and this is a place where people will understand me. And one of the things that also appeared in the research is that inclusion worked, or involvement worked, in those places where we could see some kind of commonalities established between young people.
Sorry, Arthur. I think your microphone stopped.
I don't hear Arthur. Yeah.
No, me neither.
Arthur, sorry, we don't hear you. No.
And now you do.
Now we hear you. Yes.
You do. Okay. Where was I in my grand monologue when you stopped hearing me? I apologize. I'll start this slide anew. Will that be okay? Yeah, yeah. All right. I apologize. Yeah. Well, anyways, see, old people and technology, we do not mix. Anyways, yeah, what is important to have when we're discussing cooperation with young people is that we have a point to start from. Very often there is a reluctance, both from the agency side and from young people's side, of how to even start, and this kind of distrust sometimes, even before, young people are suspicious of some kind of as we already saw today when asked about meaningful youth participation or involvement, I keep talking about participation, what was mentioned, what somebody said, not youth washing. Young people are keenly aware that very often they are involved just because this needs to be done. And this is one of the things they really, really are not looking forward to. They do not want another activity where they're just going to be asked for their opinion, but it's never going to actually amount to anything. For that purpose, there might be reluctance from their side. Now, from the other side, from the agency side, we see that there's a reluctance to involve with young people because young people disappear, young people do not keep their promises. You've heard all these things before. All these kinds of experiences that people may have actually had also leave certain kind of distrust towards, working towards young people. Now, what we saw, what was very helpful was if we had something that we could agree with, that everyone agreed that that works, this is how we could work together, this is a space where we can cooperate, and then building out from there. Now, the example I'm going to use is a kind of very simple one, and it has its difficulties, but I'll get to those. But in several of places, one of the things that people start with was by trying to give young people, allow young people more involvement in the decision-making considering the social media. Now, why social media would work? Well, most of young people very often, several of the young people talked about how, in their experience, the social media strategy of their national agency is terrible. They don't like it. They think it doesn't work. And then the national agencies felt that, well, if young people need to do something, well, they're pretty good with all those Instagram things. And we can look at this very cynically and point out that this is not a great way to start a conversation. But at the same time, this is a point where people can meet. This is a point where people can agree, okay, so if you think you can do it better, maybe we could trust you with this. And then we had some reported cases where people did very brilliant stuff with this, and young people were great at it. Now, this does not mean we need to immediately assume all young people in all across Europe love social media and are well versed in it. But however, this is one of those examples that you can think about in your local context. Okay, what is it that we believe young people can do, and what is it young people tell us they can do? And can we start this involvement in our agency from this point? Is there something we can cooperate with? Is there an activity we could entrust to them and see how it works out? And that then can lead to this kind of fruitful cooperation that sometimes ends up surprising even for everyone involved. Okay, and then the final thing is that yes, I'll finish quickly. The final thing is that the research showed that it's much more prudent to kind of to concentrate on activities rather over strategies. While it's important to have this overall strategy of why we need to, how to involve young people and why it's important, etc., in these cases that we looked at, what was more important was that there was this particular youth worker or this particular agency worker who felt we need to do this. And they kind of created this one activity. And then from this activity, what grew out was some sort of, very often what grows out is this sort of culture of participation where people then believe that this is actually possible, this is actually necessary. So while it's important to establish long-term strategies, while it's important to write up these documents that kind of justify why things are going the way they're going, what we saw from this research is that this starts usually from the other way up. It starts from bottoms, from it's bottoms up approach. We start small and then it kind of grows throughout the agency, and then the agency believes, for example, a particular agency would believe that yes, we need to now involve young people in different decisions, in more decisions, and they need to be part of all kinds of exciting things. So this successful involvement is still very often dependent on these key individuals, which of course is a point that should be improved on. But if you are at the very starting point, then this is something you should be aware of and something you should start working with about this idea that find somebody who's really excited in your organization about youth involvement, ask what they want to do, support them in that, and everything else hopefully will then develop out of that is also one of the conclusions from our research. And yeah, I know I'm over time, so thank you.
Thank you, Arthur, for your interesting intervention. And now the floor is open for questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If there are no questions, I can try to ask one. And I would like to know what the organization do in terms of, to guarantee the inclusion and diversity when we talk about involvement of young people in decision making. What do they do? According to your experience, to your research.
Sorry, could you ask again? I missed part of that. Yeah.
When we speak about how to guarantee inclusion and diversity within the mechanism, according to your experience, what organizations are doing in this sense?
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you. Very good question. Yeah, this is certainly one of those areas that many of the agencies are struggling with. They are aware that inclusion is necessary, and they are aware that young people are watching them very closely to see whether this is happening. Because for many of the young people, especially those who are active in this type of work, it is one of the things that they are very, very aware of. So they are trying to provide it. In specific, talking about specific cases, it may amount to something very simple, such as making sure that venues are accessible to everyone, or that may mean moving about the times for meetings to make sure more and more people can participate. This also means not necessarily making things only online or only offline, because there are different needs and different abilities. And it works for different people, whether it's this type of communication or it's a communication face-to-face setting. Again, trying to build around these needs. The main idea being that first we find the young people who are willing and to participate in any shape and form, and then we try to accommodate that to the best of our ability. That seems to be the prevailing way of doing it.
Okay, thank you very much. If there is any question, you can write down in the chat or raise your hand. Okay.
I see a
We have
question.
one question. Have the young people involved in the survey participated in youth project or ANT projects?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, we recruited the young people we recruited our young people from those who are participating in their respective agencies in this or other project. So this then gave us young people who themselves could reflect on what is going on, and therefore we could craft better interview guidelines. And that meant that they had young people at hand, so to speak, to interview when we got to interviewing. Because of course, one of the issues when doing something like this, especially on European scale, is to make sure that we actually get it done on time. So it was very useful that they could find someone quite quickly.
Thank you. Is there any other question? No? Okay, then thank you, Arthur. Thank you very much. We then move to the first case study, the one presented by Karin Öövel. Please, Karin, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Very nice to see you all. But only very briefly, because time is limited. So I will also share my screen and the presentation that I have prepared for today. I hope you can all see it as well. A small introduction. So my name is Karin, and I work in the Estonian National Agency for quite some years already, and I have worked in very many different roles, but always it has had to do with working with young people directly and trying to help them with their project applications, organizing different trainings, seminars for them so that they can have more help in moving from an idea to action. And last year I was presented with a task that figure something out about how to involve young people better to the programs. As we kind of were facing the fact that many of the participants in the programs are recurring participants, and the entrance for the new young people who have no previous program experience can be really, really hard. And we decided to use one. Well, we basically started from scratch, thinking how we could get to know better the point of view of those young people who maybe would like to take part in the programs, but who haven't had the chance to do so yet. So today I will really focus on this particular experience. And in summary, we really wanted to dive deeper into the needs and also the obstacles, but also the preferences of those young people who have no previous program experience. And maybe just to kind of get a feeling of how they're doing, but also how we as a national agency could provide better based on those things that we finally found out. So what we did was we organized a 2-day meeting over a weekend in March last year. And we built it up in a way that on the first day, we were mainly gathering input on different topics from young people. And on the second day, we actually presented to the young people those program possibilities that they could then, after the meeting, proceed to take part in. And we all together gathered 19 young people aged 14 to 18. So they were students. They were from 6 different Estonian counties. So the geographical spread was quite varied. And there were 6 boys, 13 girls. And none of them had any kind of previous either Erasmus Plus or European Solidarity Corps experience. So how did we reach them was through a really active social media campaign, which took place outside of our usual communication channels. So our communication officer did a great job in going about in different Facebook groups, posting this as an advertisement to take part, and we made the selection based on their profiles, checking that there would be a variety of young people, but that they would be from the right age group and with no previous experience. So what we did is, the first thing was we took quite some time for team building. If you have any experience with the method focus groups, yeah. So the focus group would be a place where a young person would come for an hour or 2, and we would ask a lot of questions, and then they would just leave, yeah. There would be no intro and maybe also no outro, and also so this meeting of the young people was a little bit different than maybe a regular consultative meeting that you would have if you just would be gathering input for yourself. So we put really a lot of focus into creating this safe environment for them to know each other, to feel that they're in the right place, and that they're really very much expected to talk freely about anything that affects them and their decisions about their life or about the programs or their future participation in the programs. So we did first inquire about general needs, problems in young people's lives to get a touch of what's going on. And then we built up this kind of non-formal methods of how to analyze what for them would be kind of preferred type of activities that they would like to take part in. So we did some case studies, puzzles, and we did many mapping exercises, for example, about what scares them or attracts them in relation to the programs. And we also did at the end a collection of feedback on our social media content. We let them look around and to discuss also our event invitations, how it looks through their eyes, if it's catchy, not catchy, if they would come, if they would not come, and if not, then why. And on the second day, we did cooperation with Europeers Network. So we used the resource of young people who do have program experience, and we put them together with those who didn't. So the young people would inspire the young people in this consultative group to become active, so to kind of overcome their fears and obstacles. So in general, what we found out is very similar what Arthur was already actually bringing out, that the young people are super busy. So here are two statements recorded from this meeting with the young people. And the reality is that those who are in their final year of studies, they were describing how they come home after the training, they have to do 5 assignments after that, they work until late night, and then they have a huge amount of work at school the next day. So, and they often do not feel that there is any benefit from this in terms of their future. So even if they want to participate in some extra, let's say, non-formal learning opportunities from the programs, it is very, very restricted to how much time they have. And some young people also go to work in order to be able to provide, to move out from their maybe rural city into a rural place to the city, so that they would need these extra resources. So they combine also learning with going to school, which was also quite an interesting fact, that there were many young people under 18 who were also employed in our group. And maybe something to point out from all those exercises and all this input that we gathered. So here are two things. First is the things that the young people mapped out as what attracts them to the projects that they could run or that they could participate in, and what scares them. And you can see here the things that were brought out by most of the young people. So the attractive part, being able to travel, these new acquaintances, multiculturalism, also self-development, and why not also free food was mentioned. And for what scares them, the maybe also really what clicks with what Arthur was saying earlier is the stress level of being engaged in this kind of projects, and also the fear of not being actually accepted. So the tolerance and stereotypes came out as something that they're afraid that maybe there is not enough tolerance, and maybe there are stereotypes which will make their engagement in the project somehow not nice. And when we asked more precisely what causes stress, then they said that going out from one's comfort zone. Also, one interesting thing what they said was that if they would search for some project opportunities, they are really afraid that they might not be selected. So they will do a huge amount of work and then get disappointed. And also that it's too much work and responsibility in general, which they wouldn't be able to handle. So maybe not something hugely new as well, but what did we learn from meeting with those young people? So we had a huge meeting with the colleagues in our youth department in the National Agency after to analyze those results. So we gathered them, we made them into a nicely looking format. We brought out all those nice examples from the young people so that the other colleagues in the National Agency would also become aware of the reality. And a key takeaways for us was that, first of all, we spent quite a lot of time pushing young people to submit projects, to co-write projects together with their I don't know, with some organization or with their youth work youth center in their region, or so on. So us as agencies, usually we are more promoting application rounds rather than giving information about already existing project opportunities. And it is for a reason, because we really want this high level of youth participation since the beginning, since before they even start planning their projects. But those young people there clearly aren't in the position to start writing any projects, and they are not organized in a way that they would have somebody behind their back who would help them to get their first experiences through starting with a project application. So we did shift a little bit our attention towards thinking how we could maybe engage those young people in already accredited organizations' work, and thinking how we could promote the accredited organizations to include a larger number of totally new, unexperienced young people into the projects that already have been funded. So in this case, the young people wouldn't have to jump into the higher levels or these, let's say, expectations of ours in writing the applications and waiting for a long time, being able to actually go abroad. And it would add a huge amount into their current stress levels, yeah? So more simple, more accessible participation opportunities to get started in the program. And after that, the participation can grow into taking more responsibilities and becoming really, really engaged. The second thing is that we must make sure that our activities as a national agency are happening in a suitable time frame for the young people. So, for example, in our agency, we have made very clear agreements about flexible working hours. So it really means that when we are organizing any kind of trainings or events that include young people, then we're doing it in the weekends. And it means that the agency employees must be also, who are working directly with young people, must be flexible in when they're working. Of course, they can take the 3 hours out later on Monday, let's say, but we will put in the first place the availability of young people. And only after that, we will think about our own working schedule. And also we made changes in our social media and event calls to be more youth-friendly based on the suggestions, what the young people said. Now, if you want to follow in our steps and to also to start at least kind of getting a sense of those young people who maybe haven't yet been able to participate in the programs, then my suggestions would be, first of all, organize it during the weekend and make it long enough so that you have enough time to create this safe space for sharing. As Arthur was saying as well, that to get over this feeling that why am I here? Why are they asking me these questions? Or to not to get this kind of, a little bit of distrust between you and the young people. So to make sure that they understand that their input is extremely valued and that they are in the right place. Then pick a youth-friendly atmosphere, so do not organize it in a conference hall, and try to use as many non-formal learning methods as you can instead of asking just loads of questions or some boring discussions. So do it youth-friendly. And try to think of this win-win for both sides, because as we did, we gathered the input, but also we offered something to them as well, so that they would later go home with much better overview of what the programs then actually do have to offer, because they didn't know it earlier. They just had some vague imagination in their head, yeah? And we really like this hop-on, hop-off principle that the young people do not have to be long-term engaged. So it was very clear from the beginning that it's just a one-time event and there will be no longer-term commitment that they have to commit themselves to. Again, it feeds back to their engagement levels in other things in their lives, what they need to do. So it looks like this kind of principle works well if also your agency doesn't have so many resources to provide a long-term engagement. And also the young people actually also do not have those resources always to be engaged on a long-term basis. Things that you can do better than us is to think already in the beginning about the follow-up steps that could keep the participants engaged also after this meetup, because the young people said that they would really like to be more involved after these 2 days, but we didn't have any plan of how to do it, yeah? So we didn't maybe catch up with them as much as we should have, because we created already this interest and then it kind of just dropped back down. So it would be excellent if you would have also some follow-up steps, and also to pay attention to diverse backgrounds, because we selected a group of young people based on geographical scope and without program experience, but we could have looked also into different language barriers, maybe some special needs background, maybe whatever other obstacles there could have been. So the youth group is so diverse that one consultative meeting definitely will not be enough to tell you the whole story behind young people, yeah, because it is such a diverse target group. To sum up, we asked them a question in the application form when they were applying to come, and also at the end, before they left, about how likely they would be to participate in an Erasmus Plus or Solidarity Corps project in the future. And as you can see before, because they signed up, they were already interested in the future to participate probably in the programs, although they didn't know anything about it. But after we finished the meeting, after these 2 days, the score was even higher. So their interest really went up after these 2 days meeting with us. And so here is a big thank you from the young people themselves. These are the people who got together and were with us for 2 days. And you can see also the atmosphere here, what I was saying. It had these nice chairs, pillows to sit on. Who wanted could sit on the ground. And it really created this positive, as you can see from the faces of those young people, they were very happy. Yep. So that's all from me, and I'm very happy to share more or to answer any questions if you have any right away.
Okay, thank you, Karin, for the presentation. You will have the opportunity to ask questions to Karin directly within the breakout rooms that we will organize after the break and after the second experience story. I think that we already have some questions from Karin, and then we will cut and paste within the breakout room so you have the possibility to reply later on. And now we have 5 minutes break, so you can relax. And we will be back in 5 minutes with the presentation of the Wendla. Enjoy your break. We will start in 1 minute, so wherever you are ready, feel free to come back in plenary. Welcome back. We are about to start in a few seconds. Okay, let's start again. Welcome back. I now give the floor to Wendla Schaper, that will present you the experience of the work of the Youth Advisory Board of the German National Agency. Wendla, the floor is yours. You are muted.
Sorry, now
Okay, now we hear you.
Wonderful. That's better. So
we don't
I'll
see the
share my slides
presentation.
with you again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do you
Okay,
all see?
perfect. Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, yes, hello. So my name is Wendla, and I'm part of the Youth Advisory Board since 2 years now. And I will also be part of the next cycle. So we always have 2 year cycle. And just shortly about myself, I've been involved in quite some projects from the European Youth Programs Erasmus Plus, but also ESC, and that also brings me to the Youth Advisory Board. So yes, just that you know, like I kind of got sick over last night. So if you don't understand me or if I have to cough, please excuse me. But we'll manage. So I'll just start right away with what the Youth Advisory Board is about. So our main aim is to consider the suggestions, the ideas, and feedbacks from young people that have experiences with the programs. Erasmus plus Youth and also European Solidarity Corps in a structural way. And therefore, young people, first of all, advise the national agency, Youth for Europe, Jugend für Europa, to improve the access and also the attractiveness of the youth programs, and also to enhance the program implementation and the support services. And also, we're advising more subtly the Federal Ministry of Youth and aim to align their programs better with the needs of young people. Also, we should provide our opinion on political debates and current policy issues related to the EU youth programs. And also, lastly, we participate in the National Advisory Board for the youth programs. And this is, I would say, like our kind of official tasks, but of course we're doing lots of other work as well that I will dive deeper in the following. But before giving some concrete examples from the last term, I would just shortly go into the structure and the organization of our board. So we're 20 members, all young people from, I think, 15 to 29 with very diverse backgrounds, both personally, but also from their voluntary background. And we do have 2 institutional reserved seats, let's say. So one's for youth organizations, there are 3 people, and your peers, there are 2 people, and the rest is just selected based on their experiences and their diversity. Then we have 4 speakers that we vote ourselves that serve as representatives. And we meet 2 times a year in person, mostly in Bonn. And then we have additional digital meetings where we prepare for example, our visits in the National Advisory Board meetings or other important meetings that are happening. So yeah, and then we also take part, as I now mentioned, in the National Advisory Board meeting that is implemented by the Federal Ministry of Youth. So I want to shortly show you how we established ourselves, or how we were established, as some of you also might think about establishing something similar. So that might be interesting. A first internal launch was in the summer of 2019, where the National Agency of Germany had then some internal discussions and negotiations with the Ministry of Youth. And then the concept was further developed in the upcoming years with external support also by the University of Lüneburg, where I actually study, which is quite funny. And then there were in the summer 2022 2 workshops with young people, which I find especially interesting because actually young people were from the very beginning part of defining the aims and the constitution and the role of the board. And in January 2023, there was the end of the open call, where actually 70 people applied. And we met the first time in May 2023. So actually, this is the moment where also my memory starts. So yeah, since then, 2 years now have passed already. So let's see what happened in those 2 years. Yep. Here you also see a nice photo with us in the work process. So I would say the most important thing that happened since then is the consolidation of the Youth Advisory Board during the cycle, where we first of all got to know each other, got to know where we are all from, and also getting in contact with the whole structures of the youth program and Youth for Europe and the Ministry of Youth. And then more importantly, I would say we started to organize and also implement own projects and started own initiatives. For example, 2 people designed and implemented a survey on sending organizations in the European Solidarity Corps and how to make them support young people better. 2 other people developed and implemented a quite admiring event series for young people on the European elections. And then we also wrote 2 position papers on the EU programs that I will elaborate further on in some following slides. So I just mentioned them here. And I think what maybe for me stood out most is that we developed or implemented some own working groups that we kept over this whole cycle on topics that were most pressing for us, or topics where we wanted to change something. And those were, for example, diversity. There's a group on awareness, one on applications and accesses. Then there's one on networking and one on sustainability. And those working groups also started to cooperate with JFE's internal working groups. And here I brought an example. Next slide. So here's an example from myself, because I'm part of the working group on diversity and inclusion, and our goal is to basically enhance the inclusivity of the programs. So we're working for a better and more inclusive access, better support in case of specific needs of participants, for example, better understanding of information material on the website, and lots of more things. And there's also an internal working group of Youth for Europe who also works on inclusion and diversity. And we kind of started cooperating now, which means that we take part regularly in their meetings, and we're allowed to set some focal points. For example, we set the focal point of speaking about mental health now. We can also contribute in the planning of upcoming events by this working group. And we are also quite requested by them for specific questions, for example, the review of information material or other upcoming questions. Also, we are invited and encouraged to take part in some additional conferences or forums on the topic of inclusion and diversity. And just to mention as an example, this is, for example, how I came to participate in the Inclusion and Diversity Forum in Belgium last year, which also allowed me then on another level kind of to share my experiences on the topic as a young person. And I came in contact with researchers on youth involvement, with other people from national agencies, and also with local and European politicians, including a European commissioner, which, we had a really good talk. And I by no means want to highlight any own successes here, but I rather want to highlight the snowball effect that we're seeing here. So by including young people structurally in your work, they are not like doing, hopefully, good work for you and helping you in your work, but you also enable them to share their knowledge on many other levels of decision making. So by including youth in your work, you probably include them in other decision making as well. Okay, but now let's have another look at other work of the Youth Advisory Board. Oh, that was one slide too fast. Oh, why does it go backwards? Sorry. That was not intended. Let's start this again. Okay, I will just shortly run through the establishing process again. There we were, sorry. So as I mentioned before, we had rewrote 2 position papers, and I want to shortly dive into them. So the first one was on Erasmus Plus Youth and European Solidarity Corps application procedures. And the aim of this paper was basically to point out current problems for young people in application processes, for project funding, and suggesting concrete improvements to make it more accessible for young people, but actually also for everybody else. So we identified problems, for example, that especially for young people who just engage on a voluntary basis in youth work with little or no support from full-time organizational structures, those application processes are really, really hard and have like major bureaucratic barriers. So there's immense time commitment needed and very, very specific knowledge and technical jargon. So our suggestions for a more youth-oriented and accessible application processes are that they're, first of all, a bit shorter application formats, and that the design answers are more inclusive, so that there's not just text, but also audio, video, or graphics. Also, there should be a contact person in an ACE and a kind of counseling format for the whole application process. Yeah, and then we also think it's a good idea to have a clear and transparent information about which questions and knowledge is required and which documents are required. But I can't really dive deeper into it, so I linked you the paper here. Now I'll shortly say something about the second position paper, which is quite interesting maybe for some of you because it's really current. It's a position paper on the new program generation. And here we aim to advocate for the positions of young people in this forthcoming developments of the EU youth programs. And we highlighted several key focal points that we want to have included in the new programs. So first of all, as you might suggest, because I spoke a lot about it now, is diversity and inclusion. So here we suggest to account for accessibility for different target groups and list some ways how. We also focus on mental health, or we hope that the new programs will focus on mental health, because this is quite pressing for young people. And we want that the EU youth programs are financially equipped with resources to provide psychological help, for example, for participants. Also, the new programs should focus on sustainability as a really like fundamental principle of all programs. And also we advise that there should be more structural participation mechanisms for young people, like, for example, the Europeans should be more funded and enhanced. Also, alumni network would be a nice invention. And also youth advisory boards in other national agencies would nice. to have like more quality standards and long-term participation of youth involvement. But also here, this is like a very, very brief overview. So also go and check it out yourself, definitely. Okay, so here's just very shortly, I run out of time, some other examples on how we influence decision-making in the national agency, but also beyond. So first of all, 2 of our people sit in the evaluation committee for project applications. So here they review assessments and discuss applications and formulate recommendations which project should be funded. So here we definitely have a direct influence on the projects. And also we participate, or 2 of us participated in the new selection process of new members for the 2nd cycle of the Youth Advisory Board, which starts in next summer. Last but not least, we will also visit the European Parliament soon and speak there with members of the European Parliament, the European Commission, to especially promote our position paper on the new program generation. Yes, so let's come to the last slide. Because I wanted to rhetorically ask you, does the Youth Advisory Board actually practice meaningful youth participation? And I would, in very short, say yes, we definitely do. And why am I so sure about this? Is because we really get a quite excellent support from Youth for Europe, Jugend für Europa, on really all matters. So we have really dedicated and very reliable contact people there. And we do have a very high degree of freedom on one hand, but also we get very concrete suggestions on what we can work and where we can implement our own ideas. And I definitely would say we're not just seen as young people who are just involved, but we're really seen as experts of our own realities and own experiences. And our input is very valued and also passed on. So there's, I would say, no tokenism here. And as I now also talked throughout the slides, we see the snowball effect, which leads to our involvement in many other processes as well, while once being included just in this youth council. So yes, herewith I'm just gonna say here some very good contact and info, people, and our website. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for your interesting intervention. And now we will open 2 separate breakout rooms. The breakout room number 1 will be with Karin, and the breakout room number 2 will be with Wendla. At this point, feel free to choose the experience that you find more interesting or that you think can be implemented in your organization, and join the corresponding room so that you have the possibility to interact directly with the speaker and talk a little bit more about that. You will have around 20 minutes. Bridget now will create the breakout rooms.
And I just wanted to encourage, I already see a lot of questions in the chat. I know that in webinar it's difficult to maybe discuss. We'll gather the questions and we'll also respond via email. So if you have the fear of missing out, if you join one breakout room, we're not going to be able to ask questions to the other. We'll do our best to respond to them in the email. And for those watching a recording later, this is where we say bye to you, but feel free to get in touch with Sato and with New Power and Youth. We can continue supporting and talking about these issues. And the breakout rooms will be opening now. It's the 10 minutes, right?
Yep.
And the difficult decision is up to all of you. And if you have any technical difficulties, feel free to write in the chat. I want to go to that room, please put me in.